Caitlin Clark's popularity is about white privilege and pretty privilege, host of The View. Now, this is Sunny Hostin. I think that's her dumbass name. You had people in the WNBA, people that are benefiting and are going to benefit from Caitlin Clark being in the WNBA and by people actually watching and going to their boring-ass games.
Private charters, all the money and visibility she brings into the WNBA. What she's accomplished, give her flowers. Stop being petty, all you women out there.
I'm going to guard her harder than I've ever guarded another female basketball. If I get a chance to foul her in the paint, I'm going to foul her hard. That's all that's happening. It's a level of sports jealousy.
She's the breakout star of the WNBA right now with the highest salary in league history. Compares Clark to Steph Curry for being relatable to fans, but claims the fact that she's a straight white woman plays a big role in the hype around her. It's not the numbers. She is the NCAA's all-time leading scorer of men and women. In February, she broke the women's record. In March, she broke Pistol Pete Maravich's 3,667-point record. She's had more 30-point games than anyone in the past 25 years. This girl earned this. I'm sorry. Could suggest that honor the women who play in the WNBA. He is part of the reason that people are now paying attention.
She knows that, like Maya Moore, her idol, Caitlin Clark could have gone to a much better basketball program. Caitlin knew going into her choice at Iowa that she was going to be building a program under the tutelage of Coach Bluter. We don't get to follow much, so although everyone got on the Caitlin Clark train eventually, Iowa was so thirsty and hungry for a player they could follow and believe in, and you felt like you were a part of it. So that was the beginning of this gusto. LSU, UConn, all these amazing programs.
She's a rookie on a bad team. She's arguably the best playmaker in the league, arguably the second best three-point shooter in the league. I don't know. They seem valuable in Olympic competition, and she's not on the team. So you argued she wasn't good for the Olympics. Your argument, though I don't buy it, but it was your argument, women's basketball, that she would be a distraction. So isn't the perfect place to put her in the skills competition? Now what is it? Pettiness, gatekeeping, insular, dumb? They're trying to get her to pay her dues, but she's the one paying all the fees. By the way, you know who was in the dunk contest his rookie year? Michael Jordan.
All she's saying is, and she is factually correct, the two needed each other. She was a part of that. Inarguable, because that is what happened. We were not talking about Caitlin Clark on these shows. We were not debating women's sports and women's basketball on these shows before that moment happened. And multiple things can be true at the same time.
When I watch these girls play, and I feel like myself and everybody else is really watching the women play now, they want to see Caitlin play basketball, right? I feel like all the attention that she got, she earned from playing basketball, shooting threes, scoring points, leading the NCAA and scoring.
Caitlin Clark played one of the most dominant games of basketball I've ever witnessed, regardless of gender, age, or level. Just an absolute masterclass. I post a Brock Purdy tweet, and I say, me watching Caitlin Clark for the first time, I don't know that we would have talked about Caitlin Clark on Monday had Angel Reese not done this. You can't see me. That did make this more than just a basketball issue. It made it a race issue. And if you don't care about basketball, you still care about the color of your skin. So it transcended the game of basketball. Now people who have never watched basketball a day in their life are jumping into the conversation because they may not care about basketball, but they do in fact care about race.
And because we bring that up and talk about what potentially might get in their way, which we do to men all the time.
That's all I'm saying in these conversations. Kennedy Carter's behavior is not indicative of the entire league. We are still talking about competition where you are allowed to get a little extra elbow in if you are competing and you do it within the parameters of the game. The game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie.
Okay, she's talking all that trash. Could you imagine if it was reverse racist? If that was a white girl.
White supremacy.
Who is a superstar. And is it because she stayed in Iowa, put an entire state on her back, took a program from nothing to a multiple year success story? Is it because she would go on to break the entire points records in the history of the end, not just the women's record by Kelsey Plum, shout out, but also Pistol Pete Maravich's, the dude's record as well? Is there a chance that people just enjoy watching her play basketball because how electrifying she is, what she did, what she stood for, how she went about going? Which we have to hear people say that we only like her because she's white, and she's the only popular because the rest of the rookie class is doing what they're doing.
Did you guys see the audience when she got bumped? That shit is packed. She is making a change. And I hate this. Guys, they always go to freaking race because she's white. No, what are you, nuts? Eminem, I don't give a shit about his color. So you can't, again, with the race situation, it's like, by the way, this girl has pumped life into the WNBA, which nobody was talking about the WNBA just in a joking manner. She has made the WNBA and they hate it.
Caitlin Clark has an elite skill set of passing the basketball.
She can see things that other people can't on the court.
It's elite. And I said both of the women would be successful.
If you're a college player and you're a great college player like Caitlin was, the delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart, and betting odds on being MVP of the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid. This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league, and she's a rookie. You're going to say, I'm going to make a statement, targeted by her looks, targeted by her reputation, targeted by the disrespect that they've shown to the WNBA is back. I thought Cameron Brink said something really smart. She said, now they're expecting this rookie class to be perfect.
For a young talent who has done nothing but bring more eyeballs to the WNBA, Caitlin Clark has been bullied physically, mentally, and emotionally. From veteran to rookie, she has been heavily targeted, and now WNBA fans have taken notice, particularly NBA superstar Steph Curry. So join me as I walk you through Steph Curry's reactions to Caitlin Clark getting bullied. Biggest star and most bullied. The emergence of the Indiana Fever's guard in the WNBA has been nothing short of generational. The Caitlin effect on the WNBA has been tremendous. Away from her talent, Caitlin's effect on the league has been unprecedented. I mean, there are now talks of a new media deal for the league estimated to bring in $200 million per season, with the potential for an extra $60 million per year. This is a league whose current deal is just $50 million per season. That's more than a 300% increase. This just concluded WNBA All-Star Game also felt the Caitlin effect, as it had a fan voting up 600% from last year, with the official viewership numbers anticipated to be the most watched in history. Just last year, the All-Star Game averaged 850,000 viewers and peaked at 986,000. Making it the most watched WNBA All-Star Game in 16 years. This year's All-Star Game averaged 3.44 million viewers. That's a 146% increase from the previous record. For what it's worth, in all of these stats and numbers, one thing is clear. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA's biggest star and the biggest in league's history. It is one thing to be big by just name, race, or privilege. It is another thing to have the talent to back it up, and that's why Caitlin stands out. She has the talent to back it up, and unfortunately, that is upsetting to many. So upsetting that she is getting bullied on the court and off it. Off the court, several sports analysts and veterans have come for her unprovoked. Many have tried their hardest to downplay her talents and achievements. Fox Sports' Joe Taylor lied on national TV that Caitlin was unknown until Angel Reese made her famous when they faced each other in the 2023 NCAA championship game. We were not talking about Caitlin Clark before Angel Reese walked up to her, did this "you can't see me" taunt, and pointed to the ring. This is not my opinion. I lived it. I watched it. It was recorded. It was broadcasted live. We were not talking about Caitlin Clark before that moment, Taylor said. Sports journalist Monique Judge even went as far as to call Caitlin the white damsel in distress in the WNBA before taking a subtle jab at her on Twitter when she tweeted, "Caitlin Clark is the Taylor Swift of women's basketball. No, I will not elaborate." These statements are all off the court, and unfortunately, on court hasn't been any better. Since her first game as a pro, Caitlin has suffered physically on the court. She has been constantly targeted by veterans and even rookies since her pro career started. She is at the ends of multiple shoves, elbows to the side, and even full body hits. It can be difficult to tell if they are taking all these aggressions out on Caitlin because they are jealous or scared, but the truth remains that she is constantly being bullied, so much so that even the NBA has taken notice and many NBA stars have come out to say and share their opinion on the situation. Even a name you would never imagine had to let the WNBA and media know. The NBA reacts. Caitlin Clark getting bullied off and on the court surprisingly hasn't gone unnoticed among NBA players who have since rushed to her defense. One of the few names to come to her defense has been none other than LeBron James, who faced similar challenges when he got drafted at 18. LeBron has seen firsthand how media attacks can shift from on-court mistakes to a more personal level, and how veterans may attack you rather than recognize your strengths. After all, not even Michael Jordan nor Kareem Abdul-Jabbar acknowledged his talent when he first got into the NBA. Anyway, LeBron has openly defended Caitlin Clark and condemned those who are bullying her. In the words of the NBA superstar, he is rooting for Caitlin Clark to succeed in the WNBA and wants more people to recognize how she's bringing attention to women's basketball. The one thing that I love that she's bringing to her sport: more people want to watch, more people want to tune in. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it effed up. Caitlin Clark is the reason why a lot of great things are going to happen for the WNBA. I'm rooting for Caitlin Clark because I've been in that seat before. I've walked that road before. I hope she kills, LeBron said. Fellow NBA superstar Kevin Durant has also openly shown his support for Caitlin. The four-time scoring champ made sure to address Caitlin's omission from Team USA for the 2024 Olympics. According to KD, Caitlin's breakthrough in the WNBA has shed light on other WNBA superstars such as Aja Wilson, and if she continues to show up regardless of critics and bullies, she will not be ignored for long. 2015 NBA All-Star Jeff Teague also addressed the bullying, even going as far as calling those hating on Caitlin and bullying her stupid. NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal, who has since labeled Caitlin Clark the best female collegiate player ever, recently posted sports personality and NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp's take on Caitlin Clark getting bullied in the WNBA. According to Sharp, Caitlin getting bullied is unacceptable when she has done nothing but bring attention to the league. Sharp cited that a veteran and two-time league MVP like Aja Wilson got her shoe deal after Caitlin because of the attention the Indiana guard brought to the league. It's unnecessary and it's uncalled for, said Shannon Sharp. Longtime UConn head coach Gino Auriemma also addressed the bullying Caitlin Clark has been facing, even going as far as to compare her impact to that of Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson on the NBA. I don't remember when Jordan came into the NBA, guys looking to go out and beat him up. I don't remember when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came in the league and elevated the NBA. Them getting targeted and getting beat up just because of who they were and the attention they were getting. Why are you blaming that kid? It's not her fault, because you would trade places with her in a minute. But you were not there. You're not her. So you're complaining that she's getting what she's getting, Auriemma said. Former NBA star Matt Barnes also expressed his thoughts on Caitlin Clark being bullied in the league when he decided to address her teammate and coach instead for allowing other teams to bully their star player without repercussions. According to Barnes, Caitlin Clark has been getting beat up, hard screens, elbows, knocked down throughout the season. And unfortunately, while that would continue because she is a superstar, it made no sense that her teammates and coach allowed it to get to a point where she is being unnecessarily bullied. I've seen a couple of girls smirk when she gets knocked down, half-assed to pick her up. Like, y'all supposed to protect the asset, protect the star. And although this is a team, you always protect your star, Matt Barnes said. The list goes on about NBA stars that have come out to defend Caitlin Clark. However, among the many names, an NBA superstar who had been rather quiet about the matter for a while very recently addressed the bullying. And it's none other than the one player she has been liked to, Steph Curry. Steph finally reacted. Caitlin Clark's game has drawn comparison to many in the basketball world, and one name stands out above the rest, Steph Curry. Both basketball stars have an unmatched ability to sink shots easily from behind the arc, so it wasn't surprising when Steph found out that they both have the same release time and range. Anyway, speaking about Caitlin Clark's talents, Steph Curry always acknowledged how generational the rookie is. He has even gone so far as to defend her from being compared to him, claiming that the comparison just takes away from the rest of her game because her game is refined. Not to mention that she is such a brilliant floor general. In any case, after a long period of silence, he decided to confront the bullying that the youngster's been experiencing in the WNBA. According to Steph, he strongly appreciates what Caitlin Clark has been doing for women's basketball. When she shows up, the seats are filled, and there's a different energy, Curry said. Addressing the bullying, Steph noted that while the game has to be competitive, it isn't fair that she is being unfairly targeted when all she wants to do is hoop. He advised that she keep her head down, avoid external distractions like she has been doing, and play because sooner or later, she won't be ignored anymore. Nonetheless, Steph and NBA stars aren't the only ones to address the bullying. According to a user, what I have come to hate are all of these people hating on Caitlyn and discussing the apparent bullying when all Caitlyn has done is play basketball. Not a complaint from her. She is way more professional than just about any other person in the WNBA. Another user commented, "The players who stand up for Clark are actually those who love the game and the talents within." If you enjoyed this video, the next video on your screen is worth your time. 17 games into her WNBA career, and Caitlyn Clark has exceeded almost all expectations set for her. Despite several doubts, her skills and fame have since translated into the WNBA. Anyway, join me as I walk you through the things LeBron James tried to warn us about Caitlyn Clark, because she is now everything he warned us about several years ago. The Rookie of the Century. Did you know that this season, Caitlyn Clark has been more accurate from 30-plus feet than Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Luka Doncic? She is the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 250 points and 100 assists. The only rookie in WNBA history not named Cadence Parker to have multiple games with 30-plus points, 5-plus rebounds, and 5-plus assists. If there was ever someone who is generational, it's definitely Caitlyn Clark. The rookie has taken the league by storm, and far from her impressive stats is her influence on the league itself. For the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever guard had a record 2.45 million viewers tuning in to watch her be the first overall pick. To put it into perspective, the 2023 WNBA Finals, the most watched WNBA series in 20 years, only averaged 728,000 viewers on ESPN. The average number of viewers for WNBA Countdown's whole season has increased by 211% since she was drafted to 741,000 this year. Games starring Caitlyn Clark have broken WNBA viewership records for 6 TV networks. This year's televised WNBA games are averaging 1.32 million viewers, nearly triple last season's average of 462,000. You should know that CBS Sports reported almost 3 million viewers for the matchup between Fever and the Chicago Sky, making it the most watched WNBA game of any network in 23 years. However, it is not just television ratings that are going up because of Caitlyn Clark. She's also filling arenas as well. Compared to last year, attendance in the WNBA is up 156%, and more than half of all WNBA games this year have been sold out. The WNBA's Atlanta Dream typically play in a 3,500-seat arena. However, when they face Caitlyn Clark's Indiana Fever, they moved their game to the nearest NBA arena, and the game was sold out. Almost 18,000 fans were in attendance. That's 5 times the Atlanta team's typical WNBA home arena capacity and a franchise record. The fame and talent to match it, and there is no denying that Caitlyn Clark is one of one. The one-of-a-kind player NBA superstar LeBron James tried to warn us about. LeBron James warning.
Clark over Horston, hits a three. Wheeler finds Clark from the logo.
Fever looking for numbers. Clark to Wallace. Back to Clark. Shovel pass. Bust. Clark has space. He's going to let it fly.
Before Caitlyn Clark ever made it to the WNBA and caused this huge impact, she was tearing up the NCAA, and LeBron took notice. Obviously, it was in college that many NBA fans saw her play for the first time. Nonetheless, she had always been red hot before college and even earned a comparison to Steph Curry since high school. We're talking about a talent who had a 60-point game during her junior season in high school, setting a state single-game record with 13 three-pointers. In her junior year, Clark was the top scorer in the state, averaging 32.6 points, 6.8 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 2.3 steals per game. In her senior year, she averaged 33.4 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2.7 steals per game, leading the state in scoring for a second consecutive year. Anyway, fast forward to college, and she was nothing short of phenomenal. We're talking about a freshman basketball player who set a record with 37 assists during the Big Ten tournament. In just her first year of college basketball, she shattered the NCAA tournament single-game records for points and three-pointers. Her total points, assists, field goals, and three-pointers led Division I in her rookie season. In her sophomore year, she became the fastest Big Ten player to reach 1,000 career points and became the first women's player to lead Division I in points and assists per game in a single season. Later in her junior season, she made history when she became the first player in the NCAA men's or women's tournament history to record a 30 or 40-point triple-double and the first with consecutive 40-point games. Her 191 total points were the highest by any player, male or female, in the NCAA tournament, and her 60 assists were the most by any player in the history of the women's tournament. Well, fast forward to her senior season, and she never stopped breaking records. I mean, what would you call someone who is the NCAA Division I all-time leader in points? We are talking about both men's and women's tournaments. Caitlin Clark holds the records for most points, assists, and made three-pointers in the NCAA women's tournament. She is the first player in NCAA Division I history to lead their conference in points and assists in 4 consecutive seasons, and the first woman in NCAA Division I history to have 3,800-plus points, 1,000-plus assists, and 950-plus rebounds during their career. Watching her was mind-blowing, so it's little surprise that LeBron James warned that she was an irreplaceable icon and even tweeted his support for her, even insinuating that she was bound to have strong haters, something he experienced too. If you don't rock with Caitlin Clark's game, you're just a flat-out hater. Stay far away from them, please, LeBron James tweeted. However, just as LeBron predicted, it didn't take long for those who were meant to lead her to turn against her and are still turning against her. WNBA animosity. Coming into the basketball league used to mean rookies getting embraced and guided by veterans in the league. However, that hasn't been the case with Caitlin Clark. So far, in her short WNBA career, she has had to face this.
And Clark. I mean, that's clear, which was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary? Kennedy Carter.
This.
Her first ever game in the WNBA, forcing 10 turnovers. Right there, you see Dejanay carrying.
And this.
Seattle, and all of a sudden, we're pretty close. This has been as close as it's been all second quarter long, 44.
Connecticut Sun star Dejanay Carrington didn't stop at flopping mockery. She even took it off court when she unprovoked tweeted, "Unfortunately for all you new fans, we do not just shut up and dribble here. You picked the wrong league." And later on, she questioned the 22-year-old rookie's silence despite being treated awfully. Dog, how can one not be bothered by their name being used to justify racism, bigotry, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, and the intersectionalities of all them is nuts? We all see that shit. We all have a platform. We all have a voice, and they all hold weight. Silence is a luxury, Carrington tweeted. Carrington isn't the only WNBA player to take it off court. Even Chicago Sky's Kennedy Carter, who shoved Caitlin, took a swipe at her, questioning what Clark brings to the table besides the ability to shoot three-pointers. Caitlin Clark has seen ESPN host Jameel Hill reduce her success and marketability to white privilege and her sexuality. TV host Sunny Hostin also echoed the same sentiment when she said, "Now Caitlin Clark is beginning this money, these sponsorships. We hope Into the League and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma against the LGBTQ+ community." When Caitlin Clark is not being subjected to blatant racism and sexism, she is also getting attacked by WNBA legends. Before the guard made it to the WNBA, Hall of Famer Cheryl Swoops ignorantly questioned the legitimacy of her scoring record in college.
Records are made and set to be broken. But if you're going to break a record, this isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
It doesn't even take much to find out that Caitlin Clark was in her 4th college year when she broke the all-time NCAA women's basketball scoring record, and interestingly, she did break it in fewer games than Kelsey Plum did. Later in the interview, Swoops also claimed Caitlin was 5 years older than her competition, so breaking those records had to be easy for her.
But let's also talk about how much more experience that gives you over other players coming in, right? So people say, dang, like he or she's killing them, but you have a 25-year-old playing against a 20-year-old. Like, you should be killing them. Because you've been doing it a lot longer than they have.
But Caitlin was just 22 in her final year of college. Another WNBA star, two-time WNBA MVP Breanna Stewart, also belittled Caitlin Clark's accomplishments when she claimed they are all for nothing since she has no title to her name.
So there's been this hot take debate about, do you need to have a championship for legacy when you talk about a women's college basketball player? You are the expert on this since you have 4. Does Caitlin Clark need a championship to be considered one of the greats in women's college basketball history?
Yeah, she does. I think so. Because then you're gonna look 10 years back and you're gonna see all the records she's broken and the points and stuff like that. But anybody knows, your goal when you play college basketball is to win a national championship. So you need one.
The list of animosity among WNBA stars and legends towards Caitlin Clark seems to be on the rise. And surprisingly, a lot of NBA stars have since come to her defense, particularly LeBron James. NBA players come to her defense. If there's one player who understands what Caitlin Clark is experiencing right now, then it's definitely LeBron James, who came into the league straight from high school. Nevertheless, given what she is being put through, the NBA superstar came to her support when he called out the animosity the 22-year-old guard is facing.
I'm just kind of in this mode right now because I'm getting the same, thing from watching my son, who's a 19-year-old, kind of getting a lot of animosity and hatred towards him when he's just a kid trying to live out his dream. There's a very small number of men and women that actually get to live out their dream of playing a professional sport. And we have grown-ass men and women out here doing whatever they can to try to make sure that does not happen. That is the weirdest thing in the world, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that Caitlin has a great head on her shoulders.
NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal also addressed the hatred and even called it professional jealousy.
Ratings are higher. They want to show out too.
You know what I call it? I call it stealing props. And I talk about this all the time, but when I use the J word, people are like, it's professional jealousy. Like, for example, if our podcast numbers are doing certain numbers and then a guy below us, oh, he's the best podcast ever. Me and you're going to be like, what the f?
Yeah. We're going to sit in the lab and come up with some cool stuff.
That's what I'm saying, so.
Another Hall of Famer, Charles Barkley, called the WNBA players petty for how they've treated Caitlin Clark so far.
You women out there, y'all petty, man. Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlin Clark. Y'all petty, girls. I expect men to be petty because we're the most insecure group in the world.
Oh, you are.
Y'all should be thanking that girl for getting y'all ass private charters, all the money and visibility she bringing to the WNBA. Don't be petty like dudes.
Former NBA star Jeff Teague also weighed in on the issue on his podcast, letting everyone know that the hate she has been getting is unnecessary.
Like, they played this all wrong, bro.
Terribly, bro.
They were supposed to gas this shit.
In fact, longtime UConn head coach Gino Auriemma, who has been a huge critic of Caitlin Clark's fans, had to finally admit that she is being unfairly treated by her fellow WNBA players. I don't remember when Jordan came into the NBA, guys looking to go out and beat him up, Auriemma said. I don't remember when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came in the league and elevated the NBA. Them getting targeted and getting beat up just because of who they were and the attention they were getting. Why are you blaming that kid? It's not her fault because you would trade places with her in a minute, but you are not there. You're not her. So you're complaining that she's getting what she's getting, Auriemma said. In any case, it is a sad reality that this rookie has to face this much animosity despite LeBron warning us all. Nevertheless, we can only hope it doesn't get to her. So she can keep hooping because there's no denying Caitlin Clark is something more than just basketball. Anyway, some fans have shared their opinion on the Caitlin Clark drama, and according to one user's comments, It's comical how they want everyone to support the WNBA, but they can't even support a WNBA player who's bringing them views, which equals revenue. Another user commented, "It's one thing for a rookie to get played hard, but to celebrate a flagrant foul shows a complete lack of character." If you enjoyed this video, the next video on your screen is worth your time.
Was it last week that she broke the record and it was like 4 million people watched that? It's just exciting.
Yeah, those are the numbers.
It's huge.
Yeah, she's obviously doing amazing. Her game speaks for itself. I think my favorite part is just women's basketball, women's sports really, but women's basketball has been on the rise. And it's kind of like what Magic and Bird was to men's basketball. Like this moment, we kind of needed something.
This is
to
that
just
moment.
And Caitlin's that moment. And I think a lot of it has to do with her logo threes. I personally, ever since All-Star break, have felt that Caitlin was the Rookie of the Year. She has since just continued to prove that. But, let's get into it. She balled out. She had a double-double, 31 points, career high, 12 assists.
My concern with all the talk about the first question always being Caitlin is that we are ignoring so many other women that are coming up. But will there be a point where you're just relieved that that's not the first question? Like, where's your level of frustration as one of the greats and with so many other women out there? So where is your level with frustration there as to that being the first question?
I don't have frustration around that. I think that superstars do ignite leagues. They do carry them on. We've seen it on the men's side. We've seen it on the women's side as well. So it doesn't really frustrate me. It's her moment. She's coming off an amazing college season, drafted number 1. It's not really, there's no way around it. Everybody wants to see how she's going to do. I think the way I've always looked at it, as her popularity started to grow, particularly this last year, it felt like women's basketball in general, and then specifically the WNBA, was already on its way. The WNBA viewership and, all the numbers that people look at, that was already on the rise probably over the last couple years. And to me, Caitlin was just this match that kind of ignited it and just made it bigger. So she accelerated everything quite a bit. Obviously, the viewership numbers show that. But things were already on a trajectory that was headed upwards. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for her in a lot of ways.
If you had to log your vote today, who would your Rookie of the Year be in the WNBA?
I mean, it is a thin line. It's really tight. But when you look at where the teams are, and I also went a little deeper and I looked at plus minus, and I also look at net rating. And when you look at that, Angel Reese has to get the nod.
What's the gap between her and some of those top talents in the league?
I think for me, I just was like, all right, let's just take the Olympic team as an example in terms of her position. So you got Sabrina Ionescu, Chelsea Gray is on that team. These are women that are similar scoring in terms of output, but Chelsea Gray doesn't turn the basketball over. Sabrina Ionescu doesn't have the same type of pressure on her with the New York Liberty or the role and responsibility. So to me, Caitlin, in my mind, year 3 probably will be striking her best stride. And it's going to be incumbent on the Indiana Fever as an organization to put the right pieces around her. Right. They are very much a team that is rebuilding, trying to get back to that 2016 championship energy. And so right now, I just don't think that there's enough support around her consistently. Okay. Now, history says, because they've now had 2 number 1 picks, Alyssa Smith was a top 5 pick, when you have that amount of picks that early in the draft, you are on track. If you look at the Las Vegas Aces, give it, I think it's 4 years out and you start putting yourself in a position to contend. Okay. But she's probably about 2 years out from her best basketball in my mind, and that includes the organization growing around.
Which teams would I not want to see in the playoffs? And that's where you brought up the Fever. I think what I've learned in my WNBA experience is pace of play trumps physicality, it trumps size, it can trump experience, because a lot of times when you're experienced, it's really like code word for your veteran, which is code word for your old.
Slow the pace.
Yeah. So I feel like
I know that's why you guys were so good for those
in
years.
2018 and 2020, the years we won, that was our whole mantra, was pace, 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 pace. And what I see in Caitlin, what I see in Kelsey Mitchell, they're just like ramming it down people's throats, and it's really hard. It can have your head spinning. So yeah, as I mentioned, Kelsey Mitchell's balling, Caitlin continuing to impress, and just she's going to break records nonstop for the next couple of years. Yeah. It's just going to be a constant record break.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the best start. I'm sure she's feeling that right now. But that's part of adjusting to the WNBA, right? Maybe not having it happen this early, but part of professional sports is you're going to have some stretches that don't go your way. You're going to shoot bad. Your team's going to lose. And how do you respond to that? So I'm sure she would like those 2 games back. Everybody's clearly got their defensive game plan built around her, which is a compliment. But you got to figure it out from there.
If it was up for debate before, at this very moment, it is clear that Caitlin Clark just had one of the greatest debut seasons in WNBA history. And now that a few opinions and critics have been put to rest, there appears to be a new one from WNBA legend Sue Bird, one that is more than just basketball. That's about the future of the game. Well, join me as I walk you through Sue Bird's thoughts about Caitlin Clark. Rookie of rookies. With the regular season finally ending, we can all agree that we witnessed a generational debut season from Indiana Fever's guard, Caitlin Clark. Obviously, she didn't end the season with both the Rookie of the Year award and the MVP award like Candace Parker did in 2008, but she made a statement. Candace, who won the 2008 Rookie of the Year award alongside the league's MVP award, averaged 18.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, 3.4 assists, and 1.3 blocks per game. Caitlin, on the other hand, averaged 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, 5.7 rebounds, and 1.3 steals. And to know how impressive Caitlin's first season was, you have to understand that Candace Parker joined a team that only missed the playoffs the previous year. She didn't have to face the second unanimous MVP in WNBA history in Aja Wilson. By a long mile, a strong argument can be made that Caitlin Clark is the best offensive rookie the WNBA has ever seen. She is the rookie of all rookies because, as a guard, the number she is putting up is extraordinary and unprecedented. Sue Bird, who is widely regarded as the best point guard in WNBA history, is one name many would have compared Caitlin to, but Bird only averaged 14.4 points and 6 assists per game in her debut season with the Storm in 2002, whereas Caitlin, in just her first year, has scored the most points by a point guard in a single season in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark, in just her first year, scored and assisted like no other WNBA point guard ever, and even if you compare her stats to the greatest offensive guard in WNBA history, Diana Taurasi, Caitlin still edges her out. Diana Taurasi is the all-time points leader, leading second place by 3,000 points, but she has never had an offensive season like Caitlin Clark just did. Despite being #1 picks, stars like Jewel Lloyd, Jackie Young, and Sabrina Ionescu took 3 or 4 seasons to reach all-star level production. Even prolific college scorers like Kelsey Plum and Kelsey Mitchell, who were the top 2 scorers in NCAA women's basketball history before Clark and Daisha Fair climbed the list in 2024, didn't burst onto the scene offensively in the WNBA as Caitlin has done so far. For what it's worth, Caitlin has proven to be nothing short of generational, and with her first regular season officially ending and the playoffs here, WNBA legend and arguably the best point guard in WNBA history, Sue Bird has now come out to voice out her concerns about Caitlin Clark, and it's a warning to the rest of the league. What could she possibly say? What kind of warning is she giving the rest of the league? Playoff nightmare. With the WNBA playoffs already here, the Indiana Fever's fast-paced play has caught the attention of Sue Bird. Since the Olympic break, the Indiana Fever have been firing on all cylinders, and according to Sue Bird, this should be worrying for the rest of the league. In her words, if she were still playing, she wouldn't want to meet the Indiana Fever in the playoff. Bird noted that from her experience in playing in the WNBA, the pace of play trumps physicality, size, and experience, and what she has seen from the Fevers is scary. The 13-time WNBA All-Star credited Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell for their success and chemistry in running the Fever's fast-paced offense, before boasting that the Indiana Fevers would be highly difficult for a higher-seeded team in the first round. The former WNBA point guard, however, singled out Caitlin Clark, stating confidently that she is a dangerous player to face at any moment in this playoff. Sue Bird played in the WNBA for 20 years, so she definitely knows what can make a player a threat to any opposing team. She is a 4-time WNBA champion and 13-time WNBA All-Star, so her opinions hold weight in the basketball community. During the interview, Sue Bird's opinions were asked about the former Iowa Hawkeye guard. She was asked what makes Caitlin more dangerous, whether it was her range or her fast-paced play. According to Sue Bird, Caitlin's range is a more lethal arsenal than her fast-paced play because as a rookie, she has proven to be a threat at any point on the court, so almost every defense is confused with what to throw at her or how to defend her because she is a threat far away from the basket, as she is also a threat close to it. Bird praised Caitlin for having both skill sets because both have helped her talents in finding her teammates better. In situations where a double is sent her way, she can shoot or find a better teammate, and yet always make the right play either way because her constant movement puts pressure on any defense no matter how good it is. You know, trouble for everybody else, that's why I don't want to see her in the playoffs, Sue Bird said. According to Bird, we all shouldn't be surprised if teams start picking her up full court in the playoffs, because Caitlin Clark is that dangerous. However, exposing Caitlin to be a dangerous rookie isn't the only thought about the guard that Sue Bird has now made public. She has praised the rookie, had some advice for her, and even made her decision on who should be the Rookie of the Year. So, what does Sue Bird have to say about Caitlin Clark again? Biggest supporter. At a time when many WNBA legends and stars are undecided out of spite about the Rookie of the Year, Sue Bird has been a vocal supporter of Caitlin Clark. According to the 13-time All-Star, I personally, ever since the break, have felt that Caitlin was the Rookie of the Year. She has since just continued to prove that. While many are sitting on the fence, Sue Bird has been concise about who she is rooting for and the obvious winner of the Rookie of the Year award. Caitlin is obviously the best of this rookie class, and yet we've got a former WNBA head coach and ESPN analyst, Carolyn Peck, saying she is undeserving of the Rookie of the Year award.
It's really tight, but when you look at where the teams are, and I also went a little deeper and I looked at plus minus, and I also look at net rating. And when you look at that, Angel Reese has to get the nod.
And ESPN's Monica McNutt going on a rant about Caitlin Clark not deserving of the Rookie of the Year because her team wasn't in the playoffs and her impact has been insignificant. Well, she is in the playoffs now, and what other argument do they have to discredit her? Caitlin Clark has so far surpassed all expectations set for her, but even when she was going through her slump early in the season, Sue Bird was one of her biggest supporters. Earlier in the season, when Caitlin's turnovers per game were terrible and critics were piling on her, Sue Bird had her back, letting her know it always takes time and she would adjust in no time. She doubled down on her support when she called her three-point an antidote to dunking. I always said this, we finally got the antidote to dunking, Sue Bird said. Sue explained that Caitlin's talent to make the basket from any point on the court has changed the negative stereotype about women's basketball not being entertaining. She applauded Caitlin for bringing such a large audience and attention to the league. She has never failed to credit Caitlin for the big attention she has brought to the WNBA since the guard got drafted. For the remainder of time, Caitlin will go down as, whatever you want to call it, the one who made the change, this pivotal person. She will 100%, said Sue Bird. And Sue is right. No one in the history of the WNBA has had this much effect on the league as Caitlin Clark. A ticket to her first playoff game is costing more than the 2023 WNBA Finals ticket. The Indiana Fever's arena has a higher attendance than the Indiana Pacers game, and the average number of viewers of the WNBA is just a couple thousand less than the NBA. It's all the Caitlin effect. And Sue Bird is right in giving the praises to who deserves it when everyone else is trying their hardest to discredit her effect. Well, credit aside, should the Connecticut Suns be afraid of the rookie in the first rounds of the playoffs, just like Sue Bird said? Should the Connecticut Suns be afraid? The Indiana Fevers will be facing the 3RD seed Connecticut Suns in their first playoff game in 8 years. Caitlin and the rest of the Fevers team will have to face one of the league's best defenses. This team held Caitlin to 16.5 points, 2.0 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game with a 30.4% turnover rate in their head-to-head meetings in the regular season. But the biggest question would be, if Caitlin in her first playoffs can't get going, can she get her teammate going? How will the Fever's fast-paced play and Caitlin's range be dangerous for the Connecticut Suns? Well, I guess we will all have to find out. In any case, basketball fans online have been buzzing about Caitlin and the Indiana Fever's playoff game, with a user commenting, "Fever needs major adjustments in Game 2 defense and better offense execution. But the problem is, can they?" Fever coach is not well known for adjustment. Another user commented, "Getting doubled and poked in the eyes can only happen to a talent they fear." If you enjoyed this video, the next video on your screen is worth your time.